I jump onto the canvas top personnel carrier with my gear, crowded in with 20 or so other men. Navy corpsman, 23 years old. Been in Vietnam for about 3 weeks. The truck leaves. It's the rainy season. Unpaved roads, rutted brown muck, lined with metal shacks and reed huts. All the smell is strange and heavy in the tropical air. A mixture of diesel exhaust, garbage, animal, and human waste. The truck moves south to the edge of the base, stops at a building marked Battalion A Station. We're here to pick up the second corpsman, who will be my partner on Hill 65. We're attached to a group of Marines whose job is to rebuild and maintain roads and clear ordnance. A small man explodes out the door looking at us with all his gear. He flings it into the truck right next to my feet, then hops in and sits down beside me. "Who's the other doc?" he asks. I extend my hand. "Ken Sissons. How long you been in country?" "Just a few weeks." "I haven't been here much longer. Don't worry, we'll get you squared away." We see a river that's the center of life in a village we pass. People fish and wash their clothes on the bank. Water buffalo drink their fill. At last, the truck climbs up the hill that's to be my home for the next several months. Over chow, we start to get better acquainted, sharing where we came from back in the world. He's a half-breed Lakota Sioux who grew up on a reservation in Nevada. For the first handshake, we're fast friends. I've never smoked weed before arriving in country. Kenny makes the introduction. Down in the Ville, the Vietnamese sell us took fin in plastic packs of 10 pre-rolled joints. They use the paper from their children's school notebooks, which smokes incredibly hot and bitter. The remedy is a cooler assailant as a chaser. The weed is potent stuff and has no ownership. It's always community property. Someone buys a few 10 packs and stashes them under a sandbag for all to use. Wahane, bro. My people have always been warriors. My father was a warrior. His father was a warrior. All the fathers were warriors. Now it's my turn. My dad was a warrior too, even though he's an engineer. He landed at Anzio to chase Mussolini up the Italian peninsula. We can't stop giggling. We're warriors charged with saving lives. Cannabis amplifies irony. On the hill, Kenny and I hold sick call for the troops. One or the other of us walks with a squad of Marines on the morning mine sweep down the road from the Ville and into Kin Village. The VC are known to be busy overnight in the hamlets. Afterward, Kenny and his regiment ride a truck north to continue the ongoing job of clearing an area of wrecked vehicles and unexploded shells and mortars in the Gold Valley. My duty is to hold a clinic under the MedCap, Medical Civil Action Program in the village. It's part of the effort to win the hearts and minds of the Vietnamese people. My aid pack contains a small supply of battle dressings intended for gunshot and shrapnel wounds, bags of IV solution in the lines to start them running, a large bottle of aspirin, a box of 10 morphine syringes, a large spray bottle of merthiolate, a box of Band-Aids, and a few rolls of adhesive tape and gauze. While my Marines work on leveling and resurfacing the stretch of the road at the base of the hill, I sit down on the roadside with Browning, my radioman, and open shop. As soon as the school lets out, we're surrounded by kids. Often one of them has suffered a paper cut at school. Another has fallen and skinned a knee. They acquire great status if they can get a bright pink spray of merthiolate from the top C, the Vietnamese word for doctor. It doesn't matter how badly it stings. A Band-Aid along with it is even better. A full gauze bandage is the best of all. It's on one of those days that it happens. It's market day. Brownie and I have just set up our station about 30 feet from the junction of the main highway and the road coming from the hill. Down comes our 2.5-ton truck, fitted on the front with an enormous grading blade. It's been a dry week and the water tanker hasn't yet wet down the dirt. As the grader reaches the road junction, the wind shifts direction and blows a plume of dust into the air. Around the curve from the trunk road at full speed comes a Skoshi cab, about the size of an SUV. Passengers cling to the windowless posts on the sides, standing on narrow running boards. Others ride on the roof. The interior is packed with still more, including a number of small children. Smitty, the Marine who is operating the grader, swerves to avoid a collision. I hear the crunch of metal a split second before the first screams. Suddenly the cries are everywhere. Foxy, I died. Doctor, come here. I scoop all my gear into my aid bag. I yell to Brownie to radio for help, then run toward the accident site. Villagers run from the market and are climbing all over the wreck. They're busily rubbing pungent mint oil, their favorite remedy, on the lips and noses of the victims. I order them to stop. Let me reach the injured. Let me help. It does no good. They continue to clamber all over the scene. Brownie radios for 2 medevac choppers and a Vietnamese army detail. We need crowd control. It takes forever for help to come. 3 people are dead, including 2 children. Finally, a truck full of armored soldiers arrives. Their captain fires his pistol into the air and screams at the villagers to disperse and let me work. I start as many IVs as I have and slap battle dressings on the wounded. When the medevac choppers arrive, they fly 11 people to the civilian hospital in Da Nang. I later learn that one of them died en route. Kenny and his radioman have heard Brownie's call. Their detail breaks off work to return to the village. They arrive at the scene just after it's all over. I've already caught a ride back up to them. Kenny asks the Marine, "Have you seen Doc Clark?" "God, man, it was bad down there. He did a real good job and held it together, but he's in rough shape. You better go find him." I'm sitting on my rack in the hooch when Kenny comes in. "Al, what the hell happened down there?" "I don't want to talk about it." Then I explain. "Those fucking gooks! They were all over everybody with their goddamn mint oil. I couldn't keep them peeled off so I could do anything at all." I never use the word goop, and I rarely say fuck. He sits with me as I cry and continue to rant about how ineffective I've been. Kenny takes great care of me that day. When it's time for chow, he goes to the mess tent and brings me a tray. He stays with me until it's dark, talks me into going out to lift the sandbag for some weed to obliterate the stain of that day. The strangest thing about this episode is that I have no memory of the incident in the village, except my tirade to Kenny nephew. I have strong recall of life on the hill and what I did on the routine days, but I remembered that awful day only after Kenny recently recounted the entire tale of the telephone conversation. Since our internet reunion, he had asked me several times whether I had any PTSD from Vietnam. Each time, I said that I have no memory that would cause any of the symptoms I associate with PTSD. I was thinking back to the men I'd seen in naval hospitals at home, the walking wounded who shuffled around on their clothes in cloud. They couldn't stop reliving what they'd seen and done in Vietnam. I haven't had any of those problems. For 41 years, I've been spared the memory of that day. No photos were taken of the incident with the Scotia Town. I've tried to produce for myself a live feed of those events, but I continue to come up empty. I can recall in detail the routine of those months. That particular day continues to elude me. It's as though a strip of old celluloid film has bubbled from heat, destroyed the images, and then resumed. I have only the account Kenny put together from what our Marines told me and shared with me all these years afterward. But the first time I couldn't say